Hi, welcome to episode 2 of In My Plant-Based Kitchen. I am Emma Levez Larocque. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist and a certified plant-based chef. And in this series, I invite you into my kitchen to talk about tips and tools and inspiration, recipes, things that I've learned along the way to make plant-based eating healthier, easier, and more fun. So today I am going to talk about citrus because citrus is one of my favorite things, kind of a little bit of a secret weapon in the kitchen. And I have some things to share with you. I am going to talk a little bit about the functions of citrus in cooking and baking. I'm going to talk about what you need to know about using juice and zest and segments a little bit too. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can use citrus creatively in some dishes that you might not think to necessarily add citrus to. And we're going to go over some of the practicalities, like what to look for when you're buying citrus, how to store them properly, and I will also talk a little bit about the health benefits of including lots of citrus in your diet. And I'll also talk about what is cooking in my kitchen today. So let's get started. Citrus is a commonly used ingredient in recipes and cuisines around the world. It is something that is beloved for many, many good reasons. And it is a really interesting ingredient that is a great way to add flavor and brightness to many, many dishes. It can also be used to balance flavors in dishes. So we're talking about lemons, limes, oranges, grapefruit, don't have any today. Also things like kumquats, those are part of the citrus family, less available here in North America. But a wide variety, and of course lemons, limes. There are lots of different kinds of lemons and limes. So if you have availability, if you have a an ethnic grocery store close to you that you can access these wonderful varieties, that's a great thing to explore. The juice of citrus fruits is acidic. And for this reason, it can provoke a chemical reaction when you're cooking with it. So I think it's really helpful to understand what happens in this reaction and how to use it to your advantage when you're cooking. First, let's talk a little bit about how to buy it. I really like to buy my citrus organic whenever I possibly can. The reason for that is because I just prefer to have, I think organic produce has lots of nutritional benefits and benefits for the planet as well. And I like to support organic growers. But citrus, as we know, is porous. And I love to use the zest of citrus fruits as much as I possibly can. So I never know necessarily which ones I'm going to be using. And I just feel like pesticides probably really gather in those little pores. So I'm not so keen on using the zest if the fruit is not organic. So I like to buy it organic. It doesn't have to look perfect. Sometimes the more perfect a fruit looks in the grocery store, the less flavorful it's going to be. Not always, but sometimes you see those really perfect looking gorgeous oranges or lemons and bring them home and then they're kind of flavorless. So what you want is something that has a little bit of give, obviously not too soft, but you want it to have some give. You want it to feel heavy because that indicates that it's juicy. You don't want it to be light or hard. Often limes, I got some limes and they're sort of borderline, these limes, they tend to be sometimes a bit light and hard, and that usually indicates that they're pithy and woody and don't have much juice. So those are ones to avoid. A really good tip is if you just run your fingernail along the fruit and smell it, it should have a really strong aroma. And that will help you to know that the fruit is ripe and it's going to be flavorful as well. What else? You want to, again, just kind of avoid those big it tends to be more with lemons and oranges, those big, thick kind of looking ones, because they tend to be really pithy, and the pith takes up a lot of the volume. And what I mean by that is the white part inside the peel or the outer zest. So, and it's not really usable in any way. So I try to avoid those ones. So if I can. How to store. Keep them in the fridge. Sometimes you see people keeping citrus on the counter. It's not that you can't do that. If you're going to consume them fairly soon, then that's fine. But keeping them in the fridge will help to keep them hydrated and fresh for longer. So if you keep them in the crisper of your fridge, that's ideal. There are different parts of citrus fruits that we can use in cooking, including the zest, of course, the leaves from some kinds of citrus, the juice, of course, and then, of course, the segments or rounds if we cut them up to use the actual fruit. So first, let's talk about zest. How to use zest. So many ways. I think this is such an undervalued, underused part of a fruit. I try to never throw away zest. So even if I'm eating an orange, or if I'm eating or I need some lemon juice, I'll zest it first, and you can freeze it. A really easy way to do that is if you have any volume, you can do it in ice cube trays, but you can also just put it in a little clump and freeze it together freeze it between two pieces of saran wrap and put it in your freezer and gather it like that, and then you can pull it out when you need to use it to add to something. And there's so many different things you could use. You can add it to salad dressings, marinades, garnishes on desserts, on all kinds of dishes. You can add it to grain dishes. You can add it to the possibilities are endless. I use lemon and lime zest to add to my nice creams, all kinds of things. Once you get started with it, your creativity will just explode, and you'll be adding it to everything. You can add it to baked goods, all kinds of things. So you can infuse oils or vinegars with it. You can use it in baking, like I said. You can use it to flavor finished rice or vegetable dishes. And you use zest when you want to add an aroma to a dish when you're seasoning it. It doesn't add any acid like the juice does. It just adds a background flavor or aroma. It doesn't change the chemistry of the dish, so you don't have to worry about that. And you use it when you want to lighten or brighten the flavor of a dish. It's the essential oils in the skin. That's where you find the essential oils in fruits. So you get the flavor, but not the sweet or sour taste of the juice. So zest can be used at the beginning of cooking. You can put it in before something goes into the oven. So this is where, for an example, a marinade for tofu or tempeh, you can add the zest. But you can also use it at the end to keep, and that will be an even stronger flavor. So if you were to add a little bit of zest, like I was saying, to a finished rice dish or something like that, then you'll get a pop of lemon or lime or orange or whatever you add at the end, and that will be much stronger. You can use it in baking, so you can add some lemon zest, like blueberry lemon muffins are a common example. You might use a little bit of lemon juice, but you might also use some zest to really pop that lemony flavor. I make some orange blueberry muffins that I use the whole orange, even the pith in. So you can, again, just it adds extra strong citrusy flavor. You can use it to brighten a salad or salad dressings. You can actually use it. It's a really good tip when I teach classes about reducing salt in the diet. You can use it sometimes to trick your taste buds a little bit by adding sprinkles of zest to a finished dish, and it helps to really balance flavors and bring out the brightness of other flavors. So you can you know, put it on top of some roasted vegetables at the end, and you won't miss the sodium or the lower sodium content as much. So I wanted to show you a few tools that I have that I use in terms of zesting. So the first one is, if you want to chunk just a peel, some of the peel, just a plain, what is this thing? Peeler. And when you use that, you want to be a bit careful, because you really don't, and this is true for whenever you're zesting something, you really don't want to get a lot of the pith. And this is especially true with oranges. So you can see, I'm going to hold this up. It's got a little bit of white on it, but that's going to be a beautiful chunk of lemon zest that you could use. I might add this to the like when I'm cooking some, if I'm cooking some grain or something like that, and I want a big, nice big presence in that form. Another tool I have is it's a zester. This is extremely sharp. I've cut myself badly with it. So you do want to be careful, but it is extremely, it looks really friendly, but it's not. And it is, what it does, you might be able to see, is it pulls out strands. So again, if you don't want to if you want to take, you don't want to take the chunks of something out and you want to leave it in there, this can be a really nice way to do it, because it doesn't give you a big, mouthful of zest. And then the third thing is a microplane. You've probably seen these. And what you do with this gives you the finest grate. You can either do it right over your pan, which is often what I do. But if you're doing it like I am right now, and you don't want to end up with the zest all over your cutting board, then you can do it upside down too. And then you're going to get little fine pieces of zest. And that or the strands are what I would tend to use in something like baking, or, like I said, where you don't want a big chunk of the zest. But you do want to make sure that you're not going too far into the pith. So you don't want to pull your zester over and over, or microplane it for too far in, because particularly for oranges, the pith can be very bitter and it can ruin a dish very quickly. So those are all my lemon zesting tips, or lime zesting tips, orange zesting tips, all the same. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about juice. So juice is what you add when you want to add intense acidity. And because you're adding an acid, you really have to, you have to be careful with it, but it's not, you do it a few times and you'll get a feel for how much you do or don't want to add. And that's a very personal thing too. I love lemon flavors, and I love to add lots of lemon juice to things. And my husband doesn't. He likes it a little bit, but he doesn't like things too lemony. So we are always doing that little dance. And I often will add extra to mine when I serve my plate. So lemon juice really brings, or citrus juice, lemon and lime in particular, obviously these ones are the ones that are used most commonly. They really help to bring out the character of flavors of other ingredients when you're cooking. You don't want to necessarily use too much. A good example of this is when you are, say, making a Thai coconut soup or a Mexican dish. You'll often see to just sprinkle a little bit of juice over the dish just before you eat it. And it's kind of the same idea as adding a little bit of salt that we've gotten used to in our culture, of adding salt to bring up the flavors of things right before we eat. But instead of doing that, often a little bit of citrus juice can do a beautiful job of doing the same thing, and really bringing out, making elevating the flavors that are already in the dish. As I think I said already, citrus juice is great for balancing flavors. So it's really good for adding to soups. If you just feel like there's something missing or there's something a little bit heavy about, especially a bean soup, like a black bean soup, you can add a little bit of lime. Unbelievable difference. A chickpea soup, a little bit of lemon juice usually works really well. Things like beans for tacos, that kind of thing. Again, just add a little bit of citrus juice at the end and it will really elevate things. What others? Oh, some other examples, maybe my tofu scramble, I almost always deglaze with a little bit of lemon juice. You just have to try it to understand what I mean if you don't already know this. When you're tasting, I always recommend tasting as you're going along when you're making some food, and you'll notice that you're tasting, everything tastes good, but you're just missing something, a little bit of lemon juice, and it's just like magic. It just brings the whole dish to life. So I can't emphasize enough how it's such a big piece of my cooking. I use it all the time. Of course, lemon, lime, orange, grapefruit are all really wonderful juices for making marinades or dressings. Very, very simple dressing. One of my favorite quick dressings is using a couple of tablespoons. If I'm doing a dressing, I don't usually buy store-bought dressings. I just often make them on the fly. And if I don't have a lot of time, I don't want to think about it, I'll do a couple of tablespoons of lemon juice, maybe a tablespoon of maple syrup, and maybe a little bit of aquafaba if I have it on hand, which is the juice from a can of beans, garbanzo beans in particular, or chickpeas. And that just helps to thicken it up. If you don't want or like or have aquafaba, you can either do without it, or you can add a little bit of olive oil if you use oil. So that would be 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, a tablespoon of maple syrup, a tablespoon of aquafaba or olive oil, pinch of salt, and then if just that is great. And if you want to add as well something a little bit extra, you can always add like a nice herb spice to just brighten it up even more. And that is a really simple homemade anytime salad dressing that I make many, many times, a couple times a week at least. What else? You can add lemon juice at the end when you've sauteed vegetables. One of our favorite things to do with broccoli is we steam broccoli, and then just before serving, you don't want to add it too far before serving because it will discolor, especially bright green vegetables. But I will just before serving add some roasted sesame seeds and a sprinkle of lemon juice, and it's delicious. It doesn't need salt. It doesn't need anything else. It's an absolutely delicious side. Super simple, super easy. And there's an added bonus, of course, of citrus, adding citrus, anything with vitamin C to vegetables with iron that are iron rich, like broccoli, for example. It's a natural pairing because you the vitamin C helps you to absorb iron and other minerals as well more readily. So it's a really good just a nutrition hack too. What else do we have here? You can, of course, use them in preserved things. So right now it's canning season, and last night I made a bunch of jam, and lemon juice is, because of its acidity, is often used as a preservative. So in jams, things like that, you want to use, that's why recipes like that always call for lemon juice. And you can also do things like use fermented lemons. That's another one. If you have access to, you can find fermented lemons, or they're very easy to make. You just need a tiny, tiny bit, and they are an amazing thing to play with in your kitchen. Maybe I'll do a whole a session on that sometime if people are interested. Other parts of the The fruit that you can use would be, of course, the segments. It's really nice to cut, if you're doing segments in a salad, to cut them into supremes. So for example, I'm actually, yes, I will cut it. Okay, so if I'm doing supremes for a salad, I'm going to trim away as much. We don't really want the pith showing. So you can, of course, just peel it and put your segments in, and then you're getting all the fiber and all the nutrition, and that is a great thing to do. But if you're having a dinner party and you want it to look a little bit fancier, then just trim away all the pith until you're left. I won't do the whole orange just for the sake of expediency here, but you just peel away the whole orange, and then you cut between the segments very carefully with a sharp knife, but never force it, because then you end up cutting yourself. And you end up with a beautiful little segment like this. And those are really pretty in salads. Really nice thing to add to salads. Or, say you're making a roasted Brussels sprouts dish, you might want to add some to, again, just adds that contrasting flavor, that beautiful acidity. It can, one of my favorite things to have, actually, roasted Brussels sprouts with orange segments and some roasted almond slices on it. So that's another really, really lovely way to use fresh fruit in a savory dish. And then the other thing I really like to do, I'll use this orange that I started, or this lemon that I started zesting already, is I will just cut them into rounds like this, and I'll barbecue them or roast them. And they are really, really nice, again, to throw into some kind of salad or roasted vegetable dish. Just add something really unexpected and special, and kind of makes your dish seem that much more interesting. Citrus is, of course, a great source of vitamin C. I already talked a little bit about that. It's really important for healthy skin, all kinds of functions in our bodies. It's really important for immune health. It's also great for hormone health. So vitamin C is absolutely critical. Bone health as well. Really, really important thing to get into your diet regularly. We don't store it, so we need to have it in our food all the time. There are lots of foods that are great sources of vitamin C. Peppers come to mind. Like sweet peppers, red peppers, yellow peppers, orange peppers, most green foods, so kale, broccoli, they're all good sources of vitamin C as well. But citrus are also a great source of other nutrients, potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, copper, all of these come to mind. Also, of course, many phytonutrients, lots of flavonoids and carotenoids that are important for all kinds of wonderful reasons. It's great if you have the whole fruit. You don't necessarily, lots of times I used to get the question a lot, well, doesn't fruit raise our blood sugar? It does if you're going to take all the fiber out of it and drink it as juice. So if you have orange juice or apple juice or something like that, yes, that's going to cause your blood sugar to spike, because we're not having the fruit in the way Mother Nature intended us to. So you really want to try as much as possible to eat the whole fruit with all the fiber, because that's great for your microbiome and getting excess cholesterol out of your system and all kinds of reasons. We know that fiber is great for us. So we want to eat the whole fruit as much as possible. Yeah, so that's my little spiel about citrus. I hope you've enjoyed it. I had some nice feedback about the first video, so thank you to those of you who sent those in. And I did have some questions and some requests, so I will be getting to those in the coming weeks. And but right now, I want to talk about what's cooking in my kitchen. So tonight, I have a friend coming over who is going to be making some pickles with me. Every year I make pickles. Love having homemade pickles, and our homemade pickles from last year just ran out. So we're going to be making some more pickles from a local, with cucumbers from a local farm, dill from a local farm, garlic from a local farm. So wonderful. Anyway, so we're going to be busy pickling, and I volunteered to make an easy dinner for tonight. One of the things I love making in the summer are grain salads because they are cool. They last for several days. They often get better with time. And this one features a lemon dressing, which I thought was perfect for tonight. So what we have got here is a whole grain tabbouleh. And I have already combined the ingredients. A cup of quinoa cooked. So I use quinoa instead of bulgur wheat. You could also, of course, use bulgur wheat. It's also really wonderful. But I love using quinoa. It's, you know, it's a good source of fiber. It's a good source of protein. It has lots of iron. So it's a really good plant grain to use. And it works really well in my version of tabbouleh. I've also got some black beans and some chickpeas because I wanted to load my salad up with beans. A couple of Roma tomatoes, a diced or chopped up green, actually 4 green onions, and some garlic, a few cloves of garlic. So I'll share that recipe with you guys on my blog and in the newsletter and so on. And, oh, you know, I forgot to put in is some fresh parsley. So I'll have to add that afterwards, as I don't have any. I'll have to go and pick some from my garden. And then the other piece of it is the dressing, and I'm going to make that right now. One of the things I didn't talk about actually is juicing and some tools for juicing, which I get reminded of because I've got the tools right here to show you. And so let's do that right now. I'm going to be using lemon juice, and I need 1/4 cup of lemon juice in this. So an easy way to, this is one of my favorite simple tools. It's kind of an old-fashioned lemon juicer. You don't need a lemon or lime juicer, but this does make it a little bit easier for lemons because they tend to have lots of seeds. And literally, I've had all kinds of fancy lemon juicers, and I always go back to this one because I find it very easy. It gets all the, or a lot of the juice out, and it catches the seeds for me. But I'm also going to show you another way. If you don't have a juicer, or if you're on holiday and you don't happen to have a juicer and you want some juice, very easy hack. So we have got 1/4 cup, roughly, lemon juice without the seeds, hopefully. Not quite enough, which is perfect because now I can show you the other way. Oh, I did get a couple of seeds in there, which I really don't want. This is a strong dressing. I just want to mention this because a strong dressing, because grain salads will absorb a lot of flavor over time as well. It will incorporate into the salad more. So this has quite a bit of lemon juice in it. I normally wouldn't use 1/4 cup of lemon juice in this ratio. So the other thing you want to do, really, really important tip, when you are cutting any citrus or juicing in particular, cut it across the equator. So that means across the middle. So you see people lots of times cutting down this way, and you can't access as much juice. It doesn't work as well. So you really cut it across the equator, and then you will see the inside of the lemon like around. Okay. And if you have just a fork, you can just stick the fork right in there, and it's going to get a ton of juice out. The one disadvantage of doing this is it's a bit awkward if you've got something seedy like this lemon is, but it works really well. You get a lot of juice. Really is you know what, I'm not going to worry about just pick the seeds out afterwards. So that's probably a bit more than 1/4 cup, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. You could also throw some lemon zest into this salad, and that would be very nice as well. In fact, I might do that since I've got some started already. Okay, the other thing that we're going to add is a little bit of vinegar, which my vinegar is over on the counter. So I'll do this first. We're going to add just a touch of maple syrup and about a quarter of a teaspoon of sea salt, a little bit of pepper, and you can use either olive oil or I've got some aquafaba from the chickpeas because I didn't have any cooked, so I opened a can and I'm going to use about a tablespoon of that. The aquafaba, it doesn't taste like anything really, especially when you're adding it to a mixture like this, but it will help to thicken up the dressing a little bit like oil does. So if you don't want to use oil or you're just looking to reduce your oil, it's a good trick if you've got some handy. And we want just about a tablespoon of that. So there we go. Because I'm always emphasizing taste it first. I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's strong, but it's what we want for this salad because we want those flavors to pop. And this is going to absorb a lot of flavor. So I'm going to add the parsley as well. Leave that to sit for a little bit. And I will serve it up in pitas with some fresh greens that I'm going to get from Terra Nostra Farm here in Pell River right now, and in a pita. That is going to be our pickling dinner. So thank you for joining me for this episode of In My Plant-Based Kitchen. I will look forward to seeing you hopefully next week.